we had time to talk in between, and we talked a lot, when I would get off of work, and when I wasn't in class, and he was constantly engaging. Good morning, how you doing? I hope you have a good day. So it was a mutual liking. And then anyway, so the first date, like I said, was great. And then in between these dates, we're still talking to each other. We're still getting to know each other. And we really had a lot in common. And he was older than me, which is a typical thing for me. I normally date older men and older women. I have literally only dated one person younger than me. And I can tell you right now, that shit ain't going good. So, but anyway, so I tend to always date older, and not even like 2 or 3 years older. People be having like 5 to 15 year age difference on me. It's just how I've always been. I feel like I've always been kind of mature, and I'm, once again, not just me giving props to myself, and I'm pretty sure my friends are going to tell you the same thing. I've always been very mature, and younger guys and younger women just don't. And then I'm a mom. I just can't deal with the bullshit. So anyway, we had a lot in common. We hit it off really well. So now by the third date, I'm going to be honest with you, it wasn't as much talking. It kind of seemed like we talked. The date was good, but it was just very like, And then also by the third date, I want to say that there were 2 red flags for me. Now, they weren't the worst red flags in the world, but I had acknowledged them between the second and then in the middle of talking, and then the third one, right? So the first red flag for me was that he wasn't married and he didn't have children, which is a plus actually, but he was in a 6-year relationship with a woman, and he had lived with her, but they did not have children together. They didn't even get engaged. So that is sort of a red flag, right? I'm not saying, I don't feel like you have to get married. I'm not a believer like, if you don't get married, that's not me. But I just feel like then I need that to be something you say, like, I really don't need to be married. But he never said that. He actually told me that he wants to get married, and he also wanted to have children. And I'm like, well, bruh, I get it. Men, we know that they can have kids in their freaking 70s, but I'm just saying, we're just talking about realistically, if you want to be an active parent and health and all those things that play a role, right? It's like, bruh, you moving a little late on this train. Like, what's going on? You understand what I'm saying? So he didn't have kids, he wasn't married, and he lived with this woman. So, and then the crazy thing is, it's not even like they moved in like super early on. They were together for 2 years, and then they bought a house together. So it was like, okay, so you're with her for 2 years, that's still a commitment. The house is in both of their names. You understand what I'm saying? I feel like people think marriage is the only thing that ties you to somebody. No, kids tie you to somebody. Getting a house together ties it. Property together ties you with somebody. You understand what I'm saying? Even moving in together, if you move into the other person's house, you're still kind of tied together. You can't just put them out, basically, right? So that to me was sort of a red flag. It's like, what is he gonna say? What is his reasons behind why he never proposed to her, or why they didn't even have children together? And so that was a red flag. And obviously I'm only going to hear his version, right? Which is fine. But what I'm saying is, that, and then what the other red flag was, and I realized that he physically wasn't exactly what I go for, right? So I have different preferences when it comes to men and women. So, on paper, which is where I'm going to get to, he was definitely what I like in a man. He planned all 3 of the dates. I didn't have to do anything. He paid for all 3 of the dates. It never even occurred to him. And I think the second date, the first one I was not going to pay for. I think the second date I maybe offered to at least do the tip, and he was like, no. I didn't have to initiate the first text or call for the day, which I'm okay with. I'm fine with that. But what I'm saying is, throughout the time frame of me and him talking, I never texted him or called him first at all. It always started with him and a good morning or some type of text, and then of course I would respond to that. And then I would call him later on in the day, but what I'm saying is our first interaction for a day always started with him, right? He opened my car door, even at the first date. Well, actually, on all the dates, he was already because I met him at all these places. He didn't pick me up. Every location I met him at, he was already there. And then he would basically just tell me where he was parked. And you know what I noticed later is that he parked places where there were two parking spots. So that allowed him to open my door. Like, he didn't have to walk to me. I didn't have to walk to him. And we walked into the places together. He was never in there, and I met him in there. He gave compliments, super sweet, you know what I'm saying? So on paper, but looks wise, he wasn't initially what I would go for. You know, he was shorter. For men, I prefer men that are at least 6 feet and taller. That's just a preference. It's not set in stone. It's just a personal preference. And I tend to be attracted to taller men. And then, so he was not, I don't even know if he was like, I think he was like maybe 5'9", which is definitely short for me. And then, he wasn't like really like built. And once again, I tend to, so when it comes to men, I'm kind of like a manly man kind of woman. If they kind of like brolicky, or like, I don't know what we want to call them, like the farmer men, like, I don't know, like they work on the farm, or work out or something like that, just, it's got a little muscle. I like that. So he didn't have that. He was more, I don't know what we want to call like a dad bod. There's nothing wrong with that. Once again, I went on these dates with him. So, but for me, once I started seeing him, I was just like, this is something I would have to get past. Anyway, the third date, it wasn't like, it was there, but it wasn't there. And then we both noticed it. But what was interesting is after the third date, he called me and we had a conversation where he honestly was like, I don't know, what'd you think? Because I felt like our third date was a little off, right? Like, I felt like it wasn't what the first 2 dates were. And I also felt like it wasn't exactly as like, ba-dum-bump as it. And I agreed. And the thing is, I didn't even need to know why. He didn't ask me why and I didn't ask him why, but he was like, I don't know. I just feel like it wasn't what either one of us thought it was. And he asked me if I agreed. So he didn't go into the conversation and was like, I'm not feeling you. I don't like you. You're not it. You ugly. You ain't this or that. No, he really was like, do you agree with me? Did you feel that too? Is it just me? Like, what? And I said, yeah, I kind of agreed. Like, it wasn't the way it had started. And then we were both like, okay, so we agree that, maybe this just, maybe we're good. We were supposed to go on these dates. We realized that we keep it pushing. And we went from there and we just, we agreed and we didn't talk anymore after that. And what I'm trying to say is that, how do you get that type of conversation with every single person? So the first thing is, does that mean that me and him should have completely just stopped talking and not kind of figured it out? No, but I also feel like it shows where we were in life, right? It shows the maturity for him and definitely the maturity for me, because I feel like we might have both been at a place. Well, I can only speak for me, but what I'm saying is I was at a place at the time where I didn't want to waste my time, right? I had already been in long-term relationship, and so had he. I had already given up time and energy, and I really was at a place where I didn't want to do that anymore. And I'm going to assume the fact that he was in a 6-year relationship with a woman that he lived with for 4 out of those 6 years, that he also was like, I don't want to waste time. And maybe that's what he felt, why he ended up being with someone for 6 years. Because in the beginning, there might have been a point where he was like, maybe this isn't what I thought it was, or I don't know if I'm not feeling her that much. But he gave it a shot. And there's nothing wrong. So I don't want people to think like, oh, the minute you feel like it ain't working, you're supposed to know. But at least me and him had that discussion. Now, will I say, could me and him have said, well, let's just go out again? Like, because what if we both had a bad day that day? I don't know. Did I work that day? I think I probably was at work that day. And he probably worked that day. And, maybe and the wait time for the restaurant that day also pissed me off. It was a long wait. It was so annoying. So I was a little antsy. So it could have just been the being tired from working all day. You go to work. I got kids. He was at work, and then we got to go to dinner, and then we waiting forever to be seated at a table. Like, all of those things could have played a factor in that day. And me and him could have discussed that, or I could have said that. I could have said, well, I wasn't my normal self that day. okay. And if he had really felt like, no, I was myself and I still wasn't feeling it, then that would have been okay also. But neither one of us went into why we felt like that date was just not what the other two were. But for me, the point of my story was I had a conversation with another adult, with a grown-up who said, hey, I noticed that we just didn't have that spark. Did you notice that? And how do you feel? And what would you like to do going forward? And that is probably the first time I've even had something like that. I don't even think ever in my whole life have I been able to have a conversation with somebody and really be like, okay, we're on the same page. And what are we going to do from here? Me and him chose not to pursue a fourth date. But how do you get that? How are you able to have that open and honest and raw and say, hey, it's not what I thought it was? And to me, it does not mean that you have to stop seeing somebody. It does not mean that the two of you can't work it out. It just means that you're willing to have that conversation and you are both heard. And it doesn't mean I'm going to get my way or he's going to get his way, because in that moment, we both felt like we were getting what we wanted. Neither one of us wanted to go forward or were willing to try, so we ended it. But I'll never know if he had said something or if I had said something. But even if either one of us had, once again, there's still nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong if one of us had said, well, I would like to go out again. He doesn't have to agree to that, and neither do I. But at least, you're still discussing it. It's still a conversation. So anyway, I hope that wasn't too much off on my rant. My time is coming to an end, but if you have any feedback, just let me know, leave a comment, and I will respond. I appreciate those of you who tuned in tonight once again. It really means a lot to me, though you cannot see me leaving episodes on my podcast literally still makes me nervous and gives me anxiety. I am not the most like, hey, look at me person. I'm definitely a little bit more of a hermit crab, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But just knowing that someone is listening and this is touching someone, or someone got some info for you, girl, I definitely appreciate it. So thanks again, guys. And, stay safe out here. Wear that mask, whether you got that vaccine or not. Corona is real. And until next time on The Lene Show, stay safe. Thanks.